I started like relaxing, chilling. And then she goes, when I say that, it was just me not waking up as early, staying there a couple hours, not sort of doing the things that I was supposed to be doing. And she goes, Jonas, she said, was the goal for you to get to where you're making 6 figures a month, or was it to help a handful of others get there?
Wow.
And I said, wow. And then I go, I said, no, the goal is to help a handful of other people get there. And she goes, the job's not finished.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Rise Above, where you'll be able to hear, learn, and grow from individuals who have rose above their circumstances, which led them to what they define as success. I've been blessed in life to have a great group of friends that are not only doing remarkable things for themselves, but also impacting the lives of those around them. Today, I have a special guest that always delivers a ton of value. From the trailer park to high-rise condos, he has not only made multiple 6 figures in multiple industries, but has changed countless lives by his selfless leadership. I can't wait for you guys to hear from my business partner and brother from another mother, Mr. Jonas Osias. Bro, thank you so much for being on the first episode of the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here, and also can't wait for you to deliver the value that you always deliver, man.
Listen, man, it's an absolute pleasure, Avi. Not only are you somebody that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, but I've been able to witness your work ethic, just hands-on, right? Just to be able to see what you've been able to do, but also be able to help a number of other people to be able to gain the success that they want in life. So listen, what you have in your podcast here, it's a pleasure for me to be able to sit here and be the first one. So thank you. So definitely appreciate it.
Of course, man, I appreciate that. And I think today's conversation is more about getting away from what people see out there in the world. From social media, they see the success, they see the lifestyle, they see the money, right? They see all of that, but they don't actually see the circumstances that people have to go through, the adversity that people have to go through to actually get themselves there. So my question to you, and where I want to start, is behind the success, behind the money, behind the lifestyle, who is Jonas Occeus?
Wow. I mean, listen, that's a deep question, right? It's also a question that also invokes, emotion. So, who am I? I'm a man of God, right? And I'm the son of 2 immigrant parents that came from Haiti that risked their lives on the I'd say on the canoe boat to provide a better life for us, right?
Yeah.
I'm a husband, I'm a father now, father of twins. And I've been blessed now to be in a position in leadership, right? To be able to assist others to be able to gain the success or the life that they aspire to be. So I am Jonas Osias. All right.
I love that.
That's all I can say.
I love that. And I just want to...
My experiences are who I am.
Right? Absolutely. And I just kind of want to unpack that a little bit. You say immigrant parents. How does having immigrant parents impact how you operate nowadays, or how you operate today?
Yeah. I think it's been, when I look at it, and as you said earlier, a number of people, they see the success, but they don't see the... like I always say, it's the story behind the glory, mm-hmm. right? So they haven't been able to witness the process of it all. So to me, when I look back and where I'm at today, to me, it's been an absolute blessing, right? It's taught me a number of that strive and that never-ending quest for success. It is what has driven me, right? To be able to see that my parents have came to America and worked in the agricultural fields, picking tomatoes, picking oranges, watermelon, the whole nine.
Wow.
I looked at that and just said, looking back now, I can see, hey, you know what, we were poor, but then I didn't think we were, right? I felt like anything that I may have needed that we could have been able to get, but I was raised in a mobile home, wow. On a dirt road, didn't have my own room. Our sisters and I, we shared the room. My parents, they did the best they could. But for me, it was just that when I looked at all of that, and when I look back, I just got to a point where I said, you know what, I have to be the one. I have to be the one that breaks that chain of poverty, that that's going to be the one that's going to be able to take our family to the next level. You know, and what I attribute to all of that is, you know, first and foremost is, you know, I'm a big believer in God. Any room that I step in or anything I've been able to achieve has been, you know, by the grace of God. But also, it was something my father told me. I remember being at the age of, I don't know, 12 or something to that extent. He'd always like instill, you know, now we say speak it into existence or law of attraction. But I'll never forget, my father's always said, you know, Jonas, whatever it is that you want or whatever it is that you want to achieve, just say it and it's going to happen for you. Right. The other thing my mom would always said, she would say, hey, you know what, Jonas, you know, when you get older, you won't have to be outside working in the sun or things of that sort. She was like, look, you're going to be someone that's going to wear a suit or tie or something like that. Like, that's what she attributed to success. So when I looked at any of that, I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to settle for anything less. Like, there's too many people that depend on me to win. Losing it isn't an option.
Absolutely. And I can totally agree with that. And I think we've spoke about this in the past where, you know, having immigrant parents and having them come to America and essentially give us the opportunity to be able to make something of ourselves. I mean, for myself, like, my father was the first one to break that poverty line, right? He came over, was an entrepreneur, and from where my father's from, like, my mother's from South America, my father's from India, and the funny thing is, when you have four options from being from a culture from India: either you're a lawyer, either you're a doctor, you're an engineer, or you're a failure, right? Like, that's literally it. So when he came over here, he was none of that. Like, so that was a huge step for him to go against the grain, to go against the culture that he came from, and to be able to come out here and kind of set the standard of what I literally live by is, look, always doing something. He's always told me to do something that you love to do, you know, always do something that you want to wake up every single morning and you're proud of doing. I was lucky enough that being from that background, being from that culture, that I was never forced to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer, right? And I feel like that attributes to my success today as well. So I definitely can relate to that story. But aside from our background and aside from, you know, immigrant parents, one thing that I've noticed about you is your success has a lot to do with putting people in a better position, right? I've seen you work with people and I've seen how much you care about individuals when you work with them. Where would you say that stems from? Where does that, like, that passion that you have is never about the money. It's never about the profits you're making. It's never about, you know, what you're going to buy next or the lifestyle that you're going to live. Even though people see that on Instagram, people see that on Facebook, that's what they see, right? But I've always noticed about you, your driving factor is the people. Where does that stem from? Like, how does that motivate you?
Yeah, so it stems from my childhood, right? And, you know, let's go back to the question we talked about before. I was just thinking about this, and we talked about, you know, me being raised in a mobile home, which is nothing wrong with it, right? I had no problem, you know, being there, but it was just that in our mobile home, I'll never forget, we had, I mean, you name the rodents we had, right? We had, you know, the roaches, the rats, snakes. I mean, because we had the mobile home literally like in a bush, right? Yeah. And I remember just growing up, I really just thought roaches was just like a norm, right? Going to someone's house and just not seeing, I was just like, all right, when you walk in the kitchen, that's what you're gonna see, right?
They were at dinner.
Yeah, you know, and I look back at that and just see that, like, that you know, that drive that my parents had, like not having education, you know, being the first ones to come over here, and they just still just gave it everything they got and make sure they provided for us, right? You know, just more so just looking at that, I remember just being younger and just thinking, as we moved to Naples, we're living in Immokalee, Florida, which is where I was raised. We moved to Naples, and then I started hanging around, you know, other kids who had more than us, right? And then I'll never forget when I was able to have sleepovers or go and hang out with them, I started saying, well, you know what? And I started riding through the neighborhoods. I realized that, you know what? There is more. And that was probably the first thing that invoked and said, you know what? If they have it and if they can do it, why not us? And I remember just being younger, just always just inquisitive. Like, how are you able to get this? What are you able to do? And I remember just going to other kids' houses and just realizing how they, you know, the other young kids would just have, more toys, boxes full of toys, the whole nine. And I just remember just being young and just think, you know what, we deserve more, and I'm going to do everything I can to be able to get that. What stems from me just always wanting to put people first. I think that's something that's wrong with a lot of our culture now, right? Mm-hmm. It's just that greed, that just, talking about individualism, right? Mm-hmm. Just all about yourself. But I go back and just realize that, those who have taken the time to pour into me, whether it's, whatever resources that may be, advice, what have you, I would not be where I'm at right now without that. So I look at that as a way of me just being able to pass that down, right? And my wife says this quote all the time. She says, "What's the point to having all the money and all of it where you don't have anyone around you to be able to share it with?" So it's just being someone that you're that change, right? You have to be that change, and because in pouring into somebody else and help them get to the next level. So essentially, it's my way of giving back to those who've given to me.
Love it, man. Love it. Honestly, I got goosebumps from that. So that was some moving stuff, man. And that's, like I said, I've always noticed that about you, and I think I've learned that from you. Is you always say people follow people, not companies, right? And I think that's huge, because it's about, if somebody knows that you're putting them first, right? They're the priority. Everything comes with it, right? And I think that's the biggest misconception that everybody has in today's society, is that they're so worried about the trophy that they forget about everything else that gets them to the trophy. Correct. You know what I mean? So, and would you say, with putting people first and prioritizing people and understanding that people are the ones that build a company, do you think that's essential in building yourself up as a leader or in leadership in general?
I think it's absolutely essential, right? There's a quote that my mentor states. He said, leadership is about making those around you as great or greater than, always striving to make the next person, greater than you, right? I think what happens when you look at dynasties that fail, it's either one thing, it's greed, but it's also wanting to just stay at the top, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is, when you look at the opportunity, it's not just about you. It's about who else are you helping to get to the next level? Who else life are you changing to be able to be better, right? And if you're not doing that, wow, yeah. And if you're not doing that, then what's the point of all this, right? To me, that's the beauty of it all, right? To see that.
Well, that makes sense. And I actually want to talk about how leadership has become so surface level in many different ways in today's society, right? I feel like everybody lives in today's society always feeling like they have to catch up, right? Or feeling that they have to live up to something. And I want to probably pose it as more as like entitlement, right? So when you look at social media, when you look at, Facebook, Instagram, I think today everybody thinks it's cool to say entrepreneur in their bio. Everybody thinks it's cool to say crypto expert. Everybody thinks it's cool to say Forex guru, right? And when you see that stuff, and I know, look, you've been like the social media guru for the last year, man. You've been on there doing your thing. I mean, but you're showing,
thanks to you,
but showing things that matter to you, showing things that you value, and you've never been the one to show the money or show, what you're buying next. And again, I'm just to clarify, like, I don't think that's wrong, right? I don't think if you want to show your watch, I mean, if you're a watch expert or you love to collect watches, by all means, but what you're posting and why you're doing it, for what's the actual reason and intent behind it, I think it's super important. So with that being said, do you think people do that on social media? Forget, even if we take social media out of the equation, whenever you speak to somebody and they have a very entitled approach, do you think that stems from insecurities? And how do you know a true leader from someone that's trying to be a leader?
That's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question. So let's start with the insecurity part. Like, do you think that people put these things in their bio, as far as, entrepreneur, or they say that I'm this manager here? They always talk about their titles. Do you think that stems from insecurities?
Well, I think that can stem from a number of different things, right? I mean, it could stem from insecurity, but I think it could also stem from just maybe they just don't have the education of not knowing better, right? It goes back to a quote that says, "Look, it's not about the title, right?" And if you look at just the way things are, right, just corporate America, the structure, the whole nine, everyone is striving to be able to gain that title. So, I think it's all perspective, right? I'm not really one to sort of judging one of things that sort. Of course. It's just whatever it is that that they like or they feel like that's probably best for them. To each his own, right?
Absolutely, no, absolutely. And the other part that I was saying was like you being the leader and having the influence that you do have. How do you know when somebody as an individual, how do you know that you yourself became a leader from, I guess, a manager or being able to tell the difference of a true leader versus somebody that thinks they're a leader?
So, great question. So, where I'm at today and what you see today is not how I started, right? So, initially I did start off selfish, all about myself, the whole nine, right? But I was able to witness where that got me. Didn't get me anywhere, right? I was actually... when I first built the first organization and duplicating that whole nine, because I was so just about me, wanting to be in the front of the room, wanting to make sure I have all the attention, right? The organization crumbled, right? I had several hundred people. Never forget when I was in law school and I was traveling from Georgia, Ohio, and I started getting so absolved and so an ego up to here, right? I was just look, I want to be in front of this stage. I want everybody to hear me, me, and essentially just crumbled. So, when I've crossed that, I'd say leadership line was when it was just no longer about me. It was truly about those that are around me and others, right? And that everything that I do is noticed and look, it's about making the next person become great, right? And most people sit back and see what we have and see where we're going the whole nine and say, hey, you know what, Jonas, you're successful. But to me, I'm not yet. Why? Because it was a quote I was speaking with my wife a little while ago, and I had just hit the which I've always written down for years. I was like, my goal is to get to the point where I can help myself and others cross the 6-figure a month line, right? And I'll never forget when I first hit it, had the first month, then the second month hit, and then I started relaxing, chilling. And then she goes, when I say that, it was just me not waking up as early, staying there a couple hours, not sort of doing the things that I was supposed to be doing. And she goes, Jonas, she said, was the goal for you to get to where you're making 6 figures a month, or was it to help a handful of others get there?
Wow.
And I said, wow. And then I go, I said, no, the goal is to help a handful of other people get there. And she goes, well, job's not finished. So I say that to say, until I've gotten to the point where I've helped a handful of individuals to go through the system and go through the process to where they can now put themselves and their family to where they're making 6 figures a month, that's where I feel that they can truly have the financial freedom, right? Then I haven't gained the success yet. I'm not there yet. So at this juncture of my life, that's what it's all. That's what the focus is. So to say where I've gotten to the point where I felt like I've attained that leadership is to when I've started realizing that it isn't about me, that it's about others, and I've truly been able to see I've helped others to be able to achieve this success and pour as much as I can into them.
No, I love it, man. That was a great answer and a very detailed answer. One thing I want to go back to that you touched on was there's a point in leadership development where you go through this phase where it's all about you. Do you think everybody has to go through that phase before they develop into a leader where they're like, yeah, me, all about me wanting to be in front of the room, being in the spotlight, everything me, and then they're also only thinking about the money, right? Do you think that's a phase that individuals have to go through in developing into a leader?
Yeah, they have to learn it, right? I think it's just, it's not just that person. I think it's just society, right? It's how it is. It's just me, like you, right? I need to get to the top, right? Right. We even got to some people who idolize the person who was just like, hey, they've gotten to the top and it's just them, right? I think it's just when you can have a step back and realize, hey, that's not what it's about, right? you really just have to go through that process.
No, I totally agree. And I know we've talked about leadership in a business aspect, right? And I think a lot of people just think that leadership is very like subjective to just business, right? Would you say leadership overlaps in other parts of your life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In your household, right? You know, I'm a married man. I have a wife and you know, 2 kids, and you know, it all transfers there as well, right? Well, in my household, I mean, if you take a look, I always you know, appeal to my wife. I think, you know, when I'm looking at leadership, that's what I always talk about, the strength of a woman. I was raised by my mother, and being able to see, you know, her level of leadership and her level of strength has really has been like, has guided me to say, hey, you know what, if she can do it and she's poured this into me, there's no reason why I shouldn't strive, right, to be able to do
Absolutely.
that. But it all spills over to everything else as well.
Got it. No, that's a great answer. I mean, I think that's the biggest misconception today, right? Because everybody gets absorbed in social media, social conformity, entitlement, all of these things, and they feel like leadership doesn't overlap. And some people are true leaders and they don't even know that they're true leaders. That's the crazy part, right? But I know you just mentioned, I mean, 2 beautiful twins, Amaya, Kalia, right?
Yeah.
First off, how you liking fatherhood?
Oh man, love it. It's amazing. You know, it's a lot of sleepless nights, right? Yeah, they're only I think 7 weeks old now. But you know, once you're able to see that, you see yourself within them. You know, it's just absolute. It's priceless, man. It's precious. Yeah.
Awesome. No, and I mean, I see it, bro. Every time we talk, and you're probably one of the only people that I've ever spoke to that just entered fatherhood that has everything good to say about it. And then literally you always say this is what you asked for, like this is it, and that's amazing to hear. But like
I prayed about that. Yeah, you know, I always say this. You know, I remember just, you know, just consistently getting on my knees and praying and said, you know, I want my first child to be a girl. I want my daughter, and you know, God blessed me with 2 girls, twins. so here we go.
Nice. And then what's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself, even though fatherhood is very, very new to you, but what's the biggest thing you would say you've learned about yourself entering fatherhood?
Patience.
Cool.
Yeah, it's you know,
you knew that right away.
Just patience, man. Being patient, and then realizing, like, look, in reality, it's like I joke with my wife with this all the time. Like, look, they run it, right? Just at that stage, right? You can see it's like, hey, look, feed me, burp me, change me, put me to sleep. I'm just like, look, they're literally running us, but. It's just, man, it's just truly just patience.
No, that's huge. That's huge because like I said before, I mean, I have never spoke to anybody that's appreciated the first couple of months of fatherhood and those sleepless nights as much as you have. So that's great to hear. But I want to transition back to a little bit about your success. First off, I want to ask, I know you talked about success and you haven't I guess in one sentence, what do you define as success?
Owning your time.
Owning your time.
Right. It's not about the money. It's not about the, you know, the materialistic things, the cars, the homes, the whole nine. I mean, all of that comes with money, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's and I truly believe, and I've always written this down, I believe it's just being able to own your time. Wake up when you're done sleeping, you know, not being able to have to answer to someone, and doing what you want when you want, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just, that's the biggest thing. It's time. And I think with that, it's just, you know, that selfish person, or that I would say that non-leader it would just be about them.
Yeah.
But the goal now is to how many other people can I help bring to the table so that way they can own their time. And realizing that, you know, that 9 to 5 clocking in, day out, that what I call that 40-40 65 rule, that that doesn't have to own you, right?
You're right.
Working 40 hours for 40 years, by the time you're age 65, you're either dead or dead broke. There's something different out there. So to me, success is owning your time.
Owning your time. No, I love
the money is not what's the important thing, right? The most valuable thing isn't money. The most valuable thing is time.
And I absolutely totally agree with that. And I think that's I think nowadays people are building that awareness about time, but I think it's just execution behind it is where people get caught up in the money and get caught up with chasing the money, that they put their happiness and they put their time in the back seat. And this is where you see a lot of people just end up living a life that they're not happy living. And when we look at what people see on the outside, and I always say, like, whatever you portray on Facebook or Instagram or any social media platforms, people think life is perfect, right? And obviously life's life. If it was perfect, I mean, we all would have a perfect life. But the reality of it is I always like to say, you always have to prioritize what people can see, right? You always have to listen to yourself. And I think people put what they think or what they want to do in the back seat because they're so worried about what's going on around them. So for all the success and everything that you've had recently, how do you, to the listeners, how do you block out that negativity and that noise around you? Because, some people might not think that you deal with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, how do you you always talk about being laser focused. You always talk about, just being eye on the prize, right? And your why and stuff like that. But what do you do to be able to block out that negativity and that noise?
So I'll tell you, it's not easy, right? It's just, you're human, right? So, Jim Rome has a great way of stating it. He says, don't major in minor things. So, that's something I always try to keep it back in my mind, like no matter what. But it's the constant pouring of positivity. So that's why I have a routine. I make sure I'm up by 5:30 in the morning. First thing I listen to, it's positive, right? Motivational, things of that sort, positivity. I won't even look at the phone and read a negative text or take a negative call, like none of that, right? The first thing I'm doing is pouring positivity into my mind. That's how I'm starting the day, and that's also how I'm ending the day. So I say that is because once you get out into the world, I mean, it just happens. It's just, if you look at the media, social media, look at the news, it's all just negative, right? So Jim Rome has something when he says, it's like with anything, like the mind is, think of it as an agricultural field, right? If you plant oranges, you're gonna get oranges, right? If you plant watermelon seeds, you're gonna get watermelon. So if you plant negative thoughts into your mind, what you're gonna get is negativity throughout the day. So also realizing that, when you're dealing with people, I was having this talk with one of my business partners here earlier. He said, sort of asked me this similar question. He said he's dealing with this person, they're negative and things of that sort. I said, look, don't blame them, right? Because that person may not know better. And I think once you realize and look at people and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, they may be in that negative state. Yeah, they may be saying something negative, but it's on you to say, hey, look, educate them on that, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just not their fault. They don't have the information that you have. But the way I protect myself is I just filter through it. I hear them saying, and I just kind of like block it off. Like, hey, it doesn't matter.
No, that's huge, man. That's so true. When you were talking about the first thing that you do when you wake up is not look at your phone, and giving yourself that 30 minutes or that hour to take in what you want to take in. And I feel like 90+% of this world right now is the first thing that they do is pick up their phone, respond to people, check emails, do all of this stuff. And I think what people don't realize today is what you see on your phone, you don't have control of, right? And that lack of control and being able to see something negative, whether it's a negative email, text message, news, whatever it is, dictates the rest of your day. And to be able to have that control in the starting of the day is such an essential to be able to have, success, or be able to block out that negativity, or to be able to block out that noise. But going into the final part of this, look, everybody always sees Jonas, it's win after win, and myself, bro, I've seen you succeed in the health insurance space when we were partnered up together, right? I've seen you take the leap into the solar industry, and what you've done in the solar industry has been remarkable. And to be able to earn your seat in the last year with not even knowing how a solar panel looked, right? Yeah. My question is, win after win for what it is, right? How do you continue to win, bro? Like, how do you continue to win? What does that formula look like?
Yeah. I've failed my way to success, right? So although it may look like it's been win after win, I've had a ton of losses, right? my most recent loss was just in 2013 when I was homeless. And, you know, I remember sitting back and looking and saying, hey, you know what? And it's because I took a chance, right? On a different business. And I'll never forget just looking back and just thinking, you know, I'm a college graduate, I have a bachelor's degree, I have the security license, Series 6, Series 63, 7, which I was studying for at the time. And, you know, all these insurance licenses. I was also someone, you know, I remember just thinking I was just in law school, right, before I left. And I just remember just being in Orlando, Florida, being homeless. And, you know, what goes to that, you'll find that people who are homeless, they're sort of like the nicest people. Like
always,
the conversation.
always.
Yeah.
The misconception is crazy, right?
Yeah. Right. They're just so giving.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, at that time, you know, just sitting back and thinking about that, going through that time, like that's what has built that strength to say, well, you know what, I see what it is here, right? So this is where I want to be, right? Just getting to that next level. So it's, you know, the biggest thing I say is just not being afraid to take chances and failing your way to success. Like it's just part of the process. One of the things I always mention is just that, you know, most people look at it, want to hit this goal, but they don't want to go through that process, right? Like the precursor to success is that pain, right? If you, like my wife, we just had twins, right? But you know, the precursor to that, you know, in order for it's the pain, right? The labor, the whole nine. So, you know, failure is part of that process. And what I'd say as far as the success is just you setting a goal, a target, and just committing to it, right? That no matter what, that you commit to it, and then you'll achieve it.
No, that's huge, man. And I just to unpack that a little bit, I think again with today's society and how everybody looks at failure. I mean, failure is so detrimental to people nowadays. Where when you broke it down and if you really take a look at what failure is, it's growth, right? It's learning. It's an experience. I want to fail fast, and I think that's something that we need to bring more awareness to. And I feel like that's the key part of your story. You before the success was all the failures that you've went through and that you've been through, which have gotten you to this point today. But I just wanted to wrap it up and transition to this last part. I did not prep you for this, bro. So don't. But you're gonna do good. You're gonna do good. You're gonna do good. You're gonna do good. All right. So I call this the final rise, right? So it's 5 questions that I'm gonna ask you.
So let me add. So if you can add this part, this quote is letting them know, hey, look, you know, when you're talking about success is make a commitment and have the discipline to see it through. Right. That's probably the biggest nugget I'm giving you. Make a commitment and have the discipline to see it through.
I love that.
Because most people, what happens, they just lack the discipline. They want it, but they're just not really to discipline themselves. So make a commitment and have discipline to see it through. But
and that's funny because the quote that is in my Instagram bio says, "Discipline is simple. It's just remembering what you want."
Oh, shoot.
So
okay,
it falls hand in hand.
Yeah.
It falls hand in hand. So last part is, like I said again, I'm sorry about this, but I didn't prep you for this, but I know you're going to do good. All right. So this is called the final rise. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You can either answer it in 1 sentence or 1 word. All right. Just to wrap this up. So first question is, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
The best advice I've ever gotten.
Mm-hmm. 1 word or 1 sentence.
In what respect?
Anything. Any respect. Anything. In life.
You know what? Yeah, I have one. Always do the right thing.
Always do the right thing. Love it.
Yeah.
Second question. What's the worst advice anyone has ever given you?
Yeah. You know, make the now that you're making 6 figures. All right. This is when I was working in corporate America. I landed a call center job that was first made $105K, and I was driving a beat up Ford 500 because I was like, look, I'm gonna like save my money and stack. I just came from
that was the one with no AC, right?
Yeah, that was the one with no AC. I just came from sleeping on the couch from sleeping on someone's couch, paying $150 for that, and I'll never forget. what got me into really saving too as well is just Grant Cardone. He said, look, if you can get to the point where you're putting away $250,000, I can put you in a position where you're making $7 million, your lifetime and whatnot. So I was like, man, that'd be a cool goal to just like shoot for that. But anyways, the worst advice was a manager at the time. He said, look, here's what will motivate you, get you to the next level. Now that you're making the money, go out and buy the most expensive car. Right?
It still happens today.
Yeah. It's like, just go out and buy an expensive car. Just buy a bunch of stuff. Right? Because that's what's going to push you to be able to make more sales. And I looked at him and I was just like, and I said, yeah. I said, look, man, absolutely. I have this thing when I'm talking to someone. I said, absolutely. They're just talking bullshit. Right? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And I just thought to myself, like, man, that is the worst advice anyone can give them, right?
That is.
Because all you're doing is just putting that person in a rut. Like if I'm making $100,000 and then my bills are $90,000 or $120,000, I'm gonna be miserable.
Bro. You're not making shit. Exactly.
So, needless to say, I just kept riding my, 400 or 500 with AC for the next 3 years. Yeah.
Until your wife made you give it away.
Yeah. Well, it was worse than that. Like, yeah. She, I came back from Vegas and it was towed. Yeah. I love that car.
All right. But that was great, man. The question number 3, a little bit deeper. What do you want your girls to think when they hear your name?
Wow. That's man, this guy he's not playing, huh? What I want them to think with it.
When they hear your name.
Well, it's daddy.
Daddy.
That's it. Right?
Love it. That's good. That's
daddy.
good.
Yeah.
The book that had the biggest impact on you that you can tell the listeners about, a book that you read that had the biggest impact on you.
Man, it's can I name top 3?
One.
Man,
one that you would go back and read over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's
one. You got just one.
What's yours?
Huh?
What's yours?
Think like a monk.
Think like a monk.
Yeah.
I would say Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. You do talk about that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of expected that one.
It was either between that or 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene with 50 Cent. But yeah, that's what I'd probably say.
And last but not least, a little packed question. It's deep again. But what do you want people to remember Jonas Osias as?
A true leader. Like he someone who like gave back, right? Was not just about himself, but was truly about helping others to be able to reach, greatness within them. So that's what I would say.
That's huge, bro. Well, that's literally it. That's the final rise, and bro, this is amazing. Thank you so much for doing the first episode with me. And truly blessed, and I know these listeners are gonna listen to this over and over. You drop gems, nuggets like you always do, bring value like you always do. So I really appreciate you, bro, and again, thank you for being on the first episode.
Listen, man, thank you for having me. It's definitely a pleasure, especially being the first, right? It means you think a lot about me, so I definitely appreciate it. Would definitely love to come back if you can, extend that courtesy to me. So I'm looking forward to more of these.
Of course, brother. Appreciate you, bro.
Discipline's simple. It's just remembering what you want. So don't forget to always prioritize what they can't see.